The finding arrived at 0340 station time, formatted as a standard administrative transmission, routed through the same channel we used to file fuel requisitions. I read it 3 times before I accepted what I was looking at. The Sovereignty Compact, 47 member species, 400 years of Galactic Standards Administration, the body that decided which civilizations qualified for protected status and which did not, had conducted an assessment of Earth's military capability. They had reviewed our vessel counts, our weapon yields, our documented engagement history across 62 years of interstellar presence. They had run those figures through their classification matrices, and they had produced a finding. Formal finding 7 Gamma null. Humanity classified as a substandard military presence within compact-governed space. Protected species designation suspended pending remediation. 7 border colonies. Havel Station, the Mirren Agricultural Cluster, New Dortmund, 4 others, reclassified as unclaimed resource zones, open to settlement and resource extraction by any compact member in good standing. The transmission ended with the courteous note that Earth could file for reclassification after submitting evidence of capability remediation, subject to a standard review period of 6 to 9 years. 6 to 9 years. I set the document down on my console and looked out at the dark. My name is Yusuf Baraka. I spent 22 years as a ship engineer before a battlefield commission made me something else. I know how machines work. I know how systems work. I know that when a system produces a finding, it is because you fed it the wrong inputs. Or because the system itself was calibrated for a different kind of problem than the one sitting in front of it. The Compact had calibrated their assessment matrices for the species they knew. They had looked at humanity and seen the numbers we had been willing to show. The patrol vessels, the survey ships, the defensive platforms at colony perimeters. They had not seen the rest. Nobody had told them to look for the rest. In their experience, a species showed was what a species had. That was the miscalibration. I sent one message to Fleet Admiral Derna Vasile at command. It contained the text of the finding and 4 words of my own. We should correct this. Her reply came back in 40 minutes. It contained a fleet designation, a set of coordinates, and a single instruction. You have the lead. Perform. The unscheduled audit was not the largest ship in the corrected record. It was simply the first one through the transit point, which made it the lead by convention. Behind it, over the next 11 hours, came the rest. 214 vessels of various classifications, none of which appeared in any registry the Compact had access to. Not because we had hidden them, exactly, because nobody had asked, and we had not volunteered. We set course for Compact Assessment Station 14. It was the nearest Compact administrative facility with full documentation capability. Sensor arrays, data recorders, transmission infrastructure capable of broadcasting findings to all 47 member species simultaneously. We needed them to be able to record what we were about to show them. I opened a standard administrative channel to the station and filed notification of intent. We were, I informed them, submitting supplemental documentation in response to formal finding 7 Gamma null. We requested that their assessment arrays be brought to full operational status. We would be arriving in approximately 6 hours and would require perhaps 48 hours of their recording time. The station's administrative AI acknowledged our notification and confirmed array readiness. It asked for an estimated file size for planning purposes. I told it we would be providing a live demonstration and could not estimate file size in advance. There was a pause of several seconds. Then it asked what kind of demonstration. I said a capability review. We arrived at Ivro 200 local station time. The station's human liaison officer, the Compact, employed humans in administrative roles at several facilities, a courtesy arrangement from better days, met us on the command channel before we were fully through the transit window. Her name was Adjunct Reyes, and her voice was careful in the way voices get when people are trying not to sound frightened. She said the station director had some concerns about the size of our formation. I said I understood, and that we'd be proceeding with the demonstration regardless, and that we would welcome the director's observation team on the array deck for the full 48 hours. It would make the documentation more thorough. The director joined the channel himself then. He was Vareth. one of the founding species of the compact, tall and slow-moving and accustomed to being the most significant presence in any room. He asked, in the measured syntax of a man who had issued many findings in his career, what exactly we intended to demonstrate. I said, everything that was not in your assessment. The first 12 hours were logistics. We deployed our vessel formations in a sequence designed to be legible to their sensor arrays. Not a swarm, not a mass, but an ordered presentation, one classification of ship at a time, each formation holding position long enough for the arrays to complete a full scan and log the results. Troll class first, since those were already in their records. Then the first thing that wasn't, the heavy interdictors, 22 of them, each massing 4 times what their records suggested our largest ships could achieve. We held that formation for 2 hours. We let the arrays work. Director Vareth asked, at hour 14, where these vessels had been at the time of the assessment. I told him they had been in dry dock, teen maintenance, all 22 of them simultaneously. I said yes. We run coordinated maintenance cycles. It is more efficient. He did not respond to that. Hour 20 saw carrier groups. We had 6. Each carried complement that, by compact classification standards, qualified as a mid-tier planetary defense force in its own right. We launched 2 full complement rotations, not in combat configuration, just in formation, so the arrays could log the individual vessel counts. The numbers went into their system in real time. I watched our liaison officer go quiet on the channel and stay quiet. At hour 29 we demonstrated propulsion, not weapons, propulsion. 3 vessels, selected to represent our median performance rather than our ceiling, executed transit point generation and collapse at intervals. The compact's own physics assessments had categorized as theoretically possible but practically unachievable for civilizations at our developmental stage. We did it 6 times. We did it slowly, so the arrays could track each stage of the sequence without motion blur. The station's assessment AI flagged an anomaly at hour 31 and requested a calibration check on its own instruments. I told Adjunct Reyes that the instruments were functioning correctly. She relayed that message in a voice that had gone entirely flat. We were not performing for effect. That is the part I want to be clear about. There was no theater to it, no moment designed to produce awe in the observer. We were filing documentation. We were submitting evidence in response to a formal finding. Every step was logged, time-stamped, formatted for compatibility with the compact's own archival standards. When we demonstrated a weapons yield at hour 37, a single discharge, pre-notified test coordinate well outside any inhabited zone, we filed the yield figures in advance, recorded the discharge, transmitted the variance between filed and recorded figures within 4 minutes of completion. The variance was 0.3%. We were consistent. Dr. Vareth requested a private channel at hour 40. I granted it. He asked, without preamble, what we wanted. I said, we wanted the finding corrected. He said he understood that. He asked what we wanted beyond that. I told him that was the complete list. We wanted the 7 colonies reclassified. We wanted protected status restored. We wanted the finding formally withdrawn from the compact record, so that no member species could act on it in the interim, and then we wanted to go home. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked why, if we had this capability, we had not simply shown it from the beginning. I thought about how to answer that. I thought about 22 years of engine rooms, about the way a well-designed system runs quietly until it is needed, and does not announce itself to every passerby, and does not spend its reserve capacity on performance, when performance is not required, I said. We didn't think you'd asked. The formal withdrawal of finding 7 gamma null was transmitted to all 47 compact member species at hour 47. The 7 colonies were reclassified in the same document. Protected status was restored, retroactive to the date of the original finding, with a note that the suspension had been issued in error due to incomplete assessment data. The compact's administrative AI generated a new file number for the corrected record. It cross-referenced the original finding. It attached all 260 hours of array documentation from the demonstration. It filed the whole package under a category header that translated, in standard galactic administrative language, as classification revised, supplemental evidence received. We held position for another 3 hours, while the paperwork propagated through the compact's distribution network. Then, when our own system confirmed the revised classification had reached every member species administrative database, I gave the order to withdraw. 214 ships turned and began the transit home. I stayed at the forward console until the station was out of visual range. I thought about Director Verith's question, about why we hadn't shown this earlier, about the 6 to 9 year remediation timeline they had offered us, as if we were a machine that had underperformed and needed time to be repaired. The compact had looked at what we chose to show, challenge, measured it against their matrices, and produced a finding. They were not wrong about the numbers they had seen. They had simply never thought to ask what we were choosing not to show, or why, or what the distinction between those two things might mean for their assessment. They had that answer now. It was in their system. Every member species had a copy. We had not destroyed a single thing. We had not issued an ultimatum. We had not raised our voice. We had simply shown up, in full, and let the record correct itself. That was the last time a compact finding used the word substandard in reference to Earth.